Let's see, turn video on and off. There we go. How's that? I still cannot hear anybody. Oh, I think I hear something now. Hello?
Hi, Julie.
Oh, hi, Don.
There?
How's it going? Yes, I am.
Great.
Can you hear me okay?
You just have this slide up for the moment. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So there's people already on, so we're just going to wait a couple of minutes, and then we will go live in about 7 minutes.
That sounds great.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Good morning, or I guess almost afternoon for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm over here. I'm just walking around.
Okay. I see they're saying the echo is bad.
No, I think it's okay.
I can hear myself echoing in your room.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder, do you have headphones in?
I don't know, but I do need to be able to hear you is the only problem.
Right, but if you put headphones in, you would hear me through the headphones, and maybe it's feeding back somehow. I don't know. That's weird.
I'm going to turn this down as well.
Okay. Hopefully, we can figure that out. Can you speak now, Julie?
Yeah. Oh, that sounds much better. Yeah. Okay, you fixed it. Oh, maybe not. I can keep talking.
Are you good? Are you okay there?
I don't know. How does it sound to anybody else on the line? Does that sound like there's still an echo? A little bit of an echo, I think, but I don't know. I think it's better.
What are they saying?
I think they're saying put AirPods in. They're saying it'll be fine if you mute, but I think that'll be hard if we're having a conversation.
What's the problem?
Let's take her down further.
Okay. Julie, can you speak now?
Sure. Yeah. How does that sound? Can you? Oh,
That's good for me.
Okay. I still do hear a little bit of an echo. It's like after I finish speaking, I hear it coming from your room. But yeah, we can put everybody on mute for sure. But so yeah, somebody's saying the speaker on the laptop is so loud it's feeding back into the microphone. Do you have earbuds? Can you put earbuds in? Because that would solve the problem.
I don't.
I can toggle the mute on your mic. When she's speaking, I can mute your mic. And then I can unmute you when you're going to talk.
Problem. I don't have earbuds.
Okay.
That's annoying.
That's fine. I think muting it when I speak will eliminate that. And I'm not sure. Okay, somebody's saying it's better now. You can barely hear it.
How's
Still
that?
an echo. It's good to have such a great audience providing feedback on the AV test.
If she's even lower, you'll still be able to hear her.
I think it sounds better. I think everybody's saying it sounds better. So.
His mic
And I can't hear her, right?
Yeah, that's it. We turn it down.
Do we need to pivot to just going to the screen itself?
But I can definitely toggle when she's talking.
We'll have to go with that right now, Julie.
I think it sounds
trying
fine.
To.
Yeah. It's funny.
It's
usually
okay now?
Yeah. Usually feedback isn't such an issue. It's I don't know. It's kind of, I guess AV is funny that way. Oh, I think that solved it. Did somebody mute Dawn while I was speaking? Is that? what happened? Yeah, if anybody is looking
I
for the
don't
mute
know.
button, it's all the way at the top
I
of the
muted it,
screen.
but, I mean, turning it down is probably a big help.
Try again, Julie.
Okay, yeah, I can keep talking. I'm pretty good at that. So yeah, looking forward to the conversation. That sounded good to me. A little bit of feedback, but much better.
Okay, I think that's the best we're going to be able to do right now.
I think it's perfect. We are all adjusting to this virtual world, and it comes with its challenges, but it comes with its advantages too, linking people across the country. So
Amazing.
do you know, Dawn, if everybody else is muted on the call, or do they have to individually mute themselves?
So I need the notes up. Okay, folks, we're just going to wait a couple of more minutes and then we'll get started. Hopefully the feedback isn't too bad on your end as we start to work through this. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this first Ocean of Opportunities webinar. Today's webinar will focus on starting up from idea to investment and will feature special guest Julie Angus, CEO and co-founder of Open Ocean Robotics. We are excited to kick off this webinar series. We have an amazing lineup of speakers like Julie who will join us over the next 6 weeks. We'll have local and international speakers who are leading experts, entrepreneurs, and visionaries in the ocean sector who will share their stories and insights and highlight the incredible opportunities that are available in the ocean sector. Before we introduce Julie, I want to mention that next week we will be joined by Jim Hanlon, the CEO of the Center for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship here in Halifax, and Maren Jorth Bauer, the CEO and co-founder of Catapult Ocean in Norway, to discuss growing our ocean economy from a Canadian and international perspective. A few important notes as we start the webinar series. Part of the project's mission is to create new connections and collisions through this webinar series. And so we've set up a Facebook group that all webinar participants are welcome to join so we can continue to interact and have those collisions. If you have an idea and need support, a co-founder, skills, or you could mentor or advise a startup, we encourage you to join the Facebook group so that you can meet people who may be able to assist or need your assistance. You can also connect with me directly anytime, and I will help you make those connections. The format for today's webinar will include a short presentation on the Ocean Startup Project, followed by our conversation with Julie. As the conversation progresses, please post your questions in the chat room, and we will be sure to include those at the end in the Q&A portion of the webinar. So over to the slides. So the purpose of this Ocean Startup Project is to generate more startup companies in Atlantic Canada and Canada generally. So we have an unprecedented regional collaboration of 6 pan-Atlantic organizations. We've got Genesis out of Newfoundland, Innovator, we have New Brunswick Innovation Fund, Springboard Atlantic, PEI BioAlliance, Creative Destruction Lab, have all come together with the Ocean Supercluster for this project. So this is an aggressive 24-month project to grow and develop startups. So the vision of this, the vision is for Canada to be the best place in the world to launch and grow an ocean company. We know that's a really bold vision, and there are a lot of different jurisdictions around the world doing oceans really well. But we think there's never been a better time to be bold in the ocean sector. We have $300 million of investment in oceans through the Ocean Supercluster. We've got ACOA here in Atlantic Canada that's very active in the ocean space supporting entrepreneurs. We have organizations like Innovacore, Genesis, New Brunswick Innovation Fund, Venn, Ignite, Volta, Planet Hatch, all here to support entrepreneurs from idea phase onward. And we have internationally renowned ocean hubs like the one I'm sitting in here today, Cove in Halifax. We also have Holyrood in Newfoundland coming online as the Marine Institute is set to break ground on their new building this spring. The ocean sector is alive and growing in Atlantic Canada, and we are here to take advantage of that. So you see this slide. This is why we're excited about the ocean sector in Canada and Atlantic Canada. We have so many great emerging innovators in our ocean tech ecosystem. The names on this slide are just a few that are having really good success. We're going to hear more about Open Ocean Robotics shortly. Many of you, though, will recognize these names on the slide, and none of them have been around for all that long, and all are making major waves domestically and internationally. One that I love to highlight is subsea imaging, and I highlight it in part because I think Julie might speak to this in a little bit. But this is a company that started out of a basement in Clarenville, Newfoundland, has now set up a large operation in Clarenville, Newfoundland, and is selling product into 20 countries internationally. So the opportunity, this slide is really compelling. Norway's ocean economy is 7 times larger than Canada's, and Canada has 7 times more people and 4 times more coastline. There's a lot of opportunity for Atlantic Canada and Canada generally with the right focus. So the Ocean Startup Project objectives. We want to foster the creation and growth of ocean technology companies in Atlantic Canada. So we want to increase commercialization and IP generation. We want to increase collaboration between startups and end users like industry. And we want to double the number of ocean startups in the Atlantic Canadian ecosystem and Canada generally. This is not something we can do as a project. We need the entrepreneurs to step up right now, and we are here to support and help you. We're going to invest up to $1.5 million into startups during this project. What we are doing in this project is we're using funnel development to help build the ocean tech pipeline. Our goal is to get people from idea to investment. So how are we going to accomplish our goals? We have 3 funnel development projects underway. We have Engage Cafes and boot camps. So the Engage Cafes are designed to inspire ideas, teams, and then companies. Our original intention was to visit up to 16 different communities in Atlantic Canada. Before COVID took over, we did 3 cafes in Corner Brook, Sydney, and Yarmouth. The cafes we got in were very well received. People are excited about what we are doing and have a lot of great ideas, and that is really exciting. Obviously, we've moved to virtual cafes, And I've talked to you a little bit about the next 6 weeks with respect to the people that we have coming on to join us. We also have the Ocean Startup Challenge. Now that is about market pull. So we're asking industry what their challenges are, where their pain points exist, and we're going to launch a challenge to ask our communities for solutions to these industry problems. The challenge will launch late April, early May. So from the submissions to the challenge, we will be selecting 10 to 20 companies to participate in boot camps. And following that, we will have a tech sprint in which each company will receive up to $25,000 for prototyping or development of their company. Startups in the tech sprint will also have access to accelerator programming and incubation programming. Then we have Lab to Market. And Lab to Market is about taking advantage of the abundance of universities and community colleges across Atlantic Canada. We're going to help these bright minds take their ideas from the lab to the market. This program will teach graduate students, postdocs, and faculty researchers how to build, test, and develop a business model centered on real-world needs. This process helps by de-risking things for a potential startup because it ensures there's market fit for that product and that critical aspects of starting a business have been addressed. Up to 20 teams will be formed and they will receive initially $15,000 for programming. So out of the cafes, challenge competition, and Lab to Market, teams will be able to apply to accelerators and incubators all across Canada and Atlantic Canada. Finally, we have CDL Oceans. CDL is about massively scalable companies that need mentorship and capital. So for the first time ever, CDL is going to have 100% ocean cohort. If you are an established company with a high growth opportunity, we can help you access CDL and its mentors. So this slide is a demonstration of the funnel we are developing. So we're trying to raise awareness and engage. Then we want to help companies with development. And at the end of this, we will be awarding 15 companies $100,000. It is important to note that the companies that do not progress to the $100,000 award will be provided advice and mentorship along their ways. There are amazing organizations throughout Atlantic Canada and Canada generally who can help get those companies further in their development. Just to name a couple, you have Ignite, Venn, Planet Hatch, Volta, Startup Zone and PEI. You have Genesis, you have InnovaCore. That's just a few of the options available in this ecosystem. So really, folks, the opportunity is yours. We're asking these questions. Do you have a business idea related to the ocean? What resources and connections do you need? Are you interested in joining a new startup team as a founder or advisor? So please keep an eye out for the challenge launching late April, early May, and we look forward to your submissions. Any questions, please send an email, give me a call. Whatever I can do to help you, I'm here to support you. So we'll move back over to Julie. So I am so pleased to be joined by Julie Angus. Julie is an adventurer, scientist, and best-selling author of Rowboat in a Hurricane, Road Trip, and Olive Odyssey. She is the first woman to row across the Atlantic Ocean from mainland to mainland and is a recipient of the National Geographic Adventure of the Year Award. She also cycled across continents, rode thousands of kilometers of coastlines and rivers, and organized a National Geographic expedition that sailed the ancient Phoenician trading routes to search the olive. She did all of that with a son with her. Explore magazine listed her as one of North America's leading adventurers, and in 2016, Canadian Geographic named her one of Canada's greatest women explorers. She is a recipient of the McMaster University Arch Award and a Canadian Geographic Fellow. You may have also seen her on television shows such as Canada AM, CBC Sunday News, and Daily Planet. Along with all of that, Julie is a scientist with a BSc from McMaster University in psychology and biology, and an MSc in molecular biology from the University of Victoria. She also studied at the University of Leeds in England. She spent a decade developing therapeutics for genetic ailments and cardiovascular disease as a researcher and in business development. Currently, she is the co-founder of Open Ocean Robotics, which we'll hear a lot more about as we continue along. Prior to starting the conversation, we thought it would be helpful for all of you to see a short video of the technology being produced by Open Robotics. Right off the top, I just want to say congratulations on being named Innovator of the Year by BC Business this week. That is really exciting. So for the benefit of all of us parents who are listening in and are wondering, how do you create a Julie Angus? Can you talk a little bit about your upbringing and how you developed that incredible sense of adventure?
Sure. First of all, thanks so much for having me here today on this cafe. It's really great to be able to speak to the ocean tech community, and I'm super excited about sharing my story. So I think I was probably the last person you ever thought would do anything adventurous when I was a kid. I was really nerdy. The only trophies I ever brought home were for math competitions. Yeah, I never played any team sports, and that kind of all changed later on in life. I just decided that I wanted to, start taking on these outdoor challenges, and grew my skill set, grew my confidence level, and really, I think, just teaching kids that they can do whatever they want and have the freedom to dream big and not be scared of failing, because often it's that fear of failure that does hold us back. So yeah, I don't know what the recipe is. I've got two young kids right now who are 5 and 9, and I want them to be adventurous and happy in life and all of that. But I think the most important thing is to always stay curious and keep exploring wherever those explorations take you.
Yeah, it's an amazing biography you have so far, and just incredible experience. Now, let's just talk a little bit about Open Ocean Robotics and that starting out phase. So tell us a little bit about, how you came up with the idea at the earliest stage and how you took it from there.
So I've been interested in the ocean and small boats on the ocean for a long time. I rowed across the ocean. I spent 5 months on the open ocean. It was a pretty small rowboat, not as small as our autonomous boat, but it definitely gave me, a real appreciation for the ocean, for how big and vast it is, how poorly understood it is, and how, nobody sees what goes on in the middle of the ocean, or very few people do. So really feeling the need for technology to better see the ocean in that way. Open Ocean Robotics didn't come until about more than 10 years after that. But in the meantime, I'd been designing different kinds of boats for going out on the ocean. So mostly human-powered boats that we would use in our expeditions, but then other people wanted them as well. So it started as a little sideline business. And just really that transitioned into autonomous boats, because a lot of the same building skills and apply, a rowboat has very little energy input. A person only has so much power. The same thing for a solar power boat, very little energy from the sun. So you need to make them extremely efficient. We can't really increase the amount of energy that we get from the sun, but we can optimize how we utilize it. So it was kind of a transition from one to another.
So I've heard that you started this company out of your garage. Can you talk to us a little bit about starting a company in a garage and what that's like in that startup phase.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did start it out of a corner of our garage. I think, it's hard starting a company. You can't just quit your job and move into a startup. There's that stage where you're not sure if it's going to be viable, where you don't have resources to put towards it. So you still need to keep your day job. So it really started as a passion project, started to develop it. Initially, we were interested in just sending a boat across the Atlantic because nobody had yet crossed the Atlantic in an autonomous boat. But then we recognized that, the boat that we're developing, there's a need for this in the marketplace, and, we can actually help improve our understanding of the oceans. So some market analysis took place, and we decided that, yes, this is a viable business, and started to put more resources into building it as a business.
So Julie, can you talk to us a little bit about that market analysis and your customer discovery phase at that early startup spot? Because for so many startups, it is trying to figure out, do I have customers? Is my idea good? Is there somebody who wants this product, and am I going to have a viable business? So can you talk to us a little bit about how you went about that?
Yeah, so we looked at, the other autonomous boats out there, especially endurance autonomous boats that are primarily powered by wind or wave, and felt that there's some challenges with that type of propulsion. Namely, you don't have the ability to store the energy, so you don't have that precise control. I mean, there's lots of advantages with those different types of propulsion as well, but we felt that our product could fill a need that currently wasn't being filled with a solar-powered vessel. So some endurance autonomous boat that can stay out there for months at a time, like these other amazing boats. But you also have that precise control. So you could go into coastal areas. Maybe you could do some more precise measurements, grid surveys, control your speed precisely, loiter in one position. So we felt that there was a potential for our technology. And also, we'd seen how effective these other autonomous boats were. Like, they were really doing a great job going out there collecting ocean data, either, helping get data that's really hard to get otherwise, or acting as a force multiplier with research ships. So we felt that there was a big need.
So in those earliest of days, you mentioned having a day job and trying to make it all work. Where did you find the money when you were starting out? How did you make it work in those earliest of days when you were trying to get your idea off the ground?
So that was just our money. So we just, in our time, so investing in it in ourselves. And I think that's often the way it is with startups. Certainly for my expeditioning career, that's how it is a lot of times. You pay for it yourself, and then you try and find ways to make the bills get paid. But once we started to get some traction and develop our technology a little bit, I started to look for external resources that could help really fuel that growth. And one of the first successes that I had was becoming a finalist in the Women in Clean Tech Challenge, which is one of the Impact Canada challenges designed to grow the clean tech economy in Canada. So there were 6 finalists. There was, I think, about 160 people that originally applied. 10 of us went to Toronto for sort of this big pitch event, which was in front of a panel, including Margaret Atwood, which was amazing. I actually got to have lunch with her, which was a real highlight. And so I was one of the finalists selected. It's a 2.5-year program. It came with some financial support, as well as support from Mars Discovery District and Federal Research Lab. So it was this, 3 pillars of support that really allowed us to grow our company. And we're a year and a half into the program. It's another year to go. And at the end, there's $1 million prize that will go to one of the 6 finalists.
Can you talk just a little bit about how important those programs are to a company starting up? So the government programs, but also the challenges and the other opportunities you have to get funding.
I think those programs are exceedingly important. I mean, it's hard to build a tech company with hardware where, you know, it's capital intensive. You know, it's different from, say, you know, a software company, which is also obviously challenging, but definitely hardware has its own challenges. Also, if you've never built a company before, and I'd never built a venture scale company before, you know, where do you start, right? It feels like this huge barrier, and you're just, you know, staring out into the abyss and not sure what you're going to do. But then once you start moving forward, you realize, you know, there's actually a lot of resources to help you along the way. And so I think, you know, accelerators, programs like Mars Discovery District, programs like CDL, incubators like Foresight or Alacrity or Spring here, you know, innovation hubs like Cove, those are essential to being able to grow early stage companies. And, you know, as an entrepreneur or somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, you need to know that those resources exist for you and people want to help you, and you will get the time from these amazing people who will help you grow your business. It's really amazing.
I totally agree. And one thing I'm interested in hearing from you is, in those early stages, who did you get help from? Not necessarily dollars. Who did you reach out to and talk to? Who did you get advice from? Where did you find your support in starting out?
So I found some of it locally. You know, we're here in Victoria. We have Viatech, which is, you know, our advanced technology community. I went to UVic, so I actually found a location at Vancouver Island Technology Park, which is a UVic property. Finding space is really challenging here. You know, we don't have an accelerator like Cove, which is a great resource. And then the business expertise, I mean, it started with Mars, but I joined other accelerators. So I joined Foresight Clean Tech Accelerator here. I entered this competition from Spring Accelerator, which is an impact accelerator. I was the Spring Impact Investor Challenge, which was like a 12-week program to pair impact investors with early stage companies. So once again, it was like over 100 people that applied. 10 of us went through the program, and at the end, the investors chose one company to invest their $100,000 investment, and they chose our company. But in addition to that investment, it was all the support, learning how to raise venture capital, learning what angel investors are interested in, and that really started the ball rolling and allowed me to make the connections to raise a larger pre-seed round.
It's really interesting. Hearing the $100,000 number is interesting for this project as well, because that is what we are looking to award companies at the end of this project. So it's very on point with what we're trying to do, and to know how meaningful that $100,000 is to a company starting up is really great. Now, just, you have that moment along the way where you're not sure you're a real company yet, and you're working day and night, and you're trying to cultivate this idea and build it into something. Tell me a little bit about when you felt like you were actually a company. You had something that you thought you could go to market with.
Yeah, I think it's a slow progression of feeling a little bit more confident in that. So I remember when we hired our first co-op students, so it was from UVic, and we really needed expertise in electrical engineering. And so we were interviewing them, and we were still in our garage at that point. So I was like, I don't know, can we hire co-op students and make them work in our garage? But anyways, we did. We hired 2. They were second-year co-op students, and at least by the time they started, we did get a spot at the tech park, so we moved in there. But even, you know, at that early stage, did it feel like a real company yet? You know, Colin and I and 2 second-year co-op students, I wouldn't say so. We had a lot of issues with our boat, you know, a little bit of smoke here and there, and things kind of progressed from there. We continued to develop the technology. We ended up hiring 4th-year co-op students in the next term, and started to, you know, get traction with customers and feedback from the market that allowed us to really better understand where our market fit was, and have that direct interaction. And I think that's when we kind of started to feel more like a company, when people said, yeah, we want to use this, and this is, how we see using it.
So Julie, in those early days, and I keep coming back to the early days because I think that's really important to what we're trying to do in this project, but in those early days, you have those, and you alluded to it a little bit in some of your comments, but you have that bit of a roller coaster ride, and you have those moments of elation, and then you have those moments of, oh my gosh, what just happened? And it's a bit of a roller coaster that you're on. Can you talk to us a little about resilience and perseverance in those early days, and what it requires to really develop a company?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's about resilience and perseverance, and knowing that it's not easy, but it is rewarding and it is exciting. And, you have the opportunity to push boundaries, to follow the things you're passionate about, to meet other incredible people, and to, potentially change the world. I mean, that sounds a bit idealistic, but that's what innovation is all about, making the world a better place. So I think, as with anything we do in life, when we're pushing boundaries, we're going to have challenges. So it's important to just break things down into smaller, more achievable milestones. And it's really just one step after another. And yes, you're going to have bad days, but you're going to have great days. Yes, you're going to have setbacks, but you just want to inch yourself forward more than you move backwards. And eventually you will get there.
It sounds probably very much like rowing across the Atlantic. Certainly rowing across a harbor for me sounds like that. Make it small and incremental, but I have never attempted the Atlantic, that is for sure. So Julie, you've gotten it, you've developed your idea in the garage, you've won a challenge. How do you get yourself out of the garage? How do you take yourself from the garage to an office or a work environment that isn't the garage any longer? When do you know that's time?
I think when you're able to devote time to your project, when it's no longer a side project, when you can devote maybe all your time or most of your time to it. And it also depends on how easy it is to get that external space. So, if you have Cove where you can, start with an entry point that's not too expensive, maybe you can go earlier than if you have to, rent a facility for thousands of dollars a month. So I think it really depends on, is the short answer, on your technology, on where you are in its development cycle in your life. Yeah, I think once you feel you have a viable idea, some traction, some early demonstration, you can definitely start to move forward with it.
And so, Julie, how long did it take you from that garage stage to the finding office space and moving and scaling it up a bit?
So we probably were working on it for maybe about 10 months in the garage before we, maybe a bit longer, about a year in the garage before we actually moved into a facility. And it was really, we could have stayed in our garage longer, but it was because we wanted to hire people and we didn't want them have to make them work in our garage. So that was really the point where we're like, okay, we need a facility.
So that's a really important piece that I want to ask you about too, is personnel. So when did you decide it was time to start growing from a personnel perspective, and what positions did you end up bringing on first as paid employees in the company?
So we realized pretty early on that we didn't have all the skills needed to build autonomous boats. Our strength is understanding the ocean, boat design, but we're not computer scientists, we're not electrical engineers, and those are skill sets that are crucial in developing an autonomous boat. So much of it is, electrical systems, communication, data transfer. So we started with co-op students. We hired exclusively co-op students and interns in our first year because it was, you could get grants to help subsidize it. And you can get really smart co-op students and interns, like it's amazing. So I would definitely recommend that as a route. And then you have a chance to really see, what they're like, how they fit into your company, if they're going to add value, and then you can hire them afterwards if they are. So it's like the best interview process ever. So we had 6 people last year. We're growing to 7 right now, and a number of those have converted to full-time staff, the ones that started as co-op and interns.
And so who did you bring on first?
So we had our first 2 UVic electrical engineers, and then when they left, we hired another electrical engineer co-op student and a computer science co-op student, and we also had support for 2 interns. One was a mechanical engineer, the other one was an electrical engineer. So that was basically the route. We just about 2 months ago, we hired a director of engineering, so a more senior position, a computer engineer, to really guide the development of that side of our business.
So I'm hearing you talk a lot about engineering positions, and that leads me to a question with respect to ocean tech, because ocean tech plays are quite a bit different than your typical software play, because there's challenges in that ocean environment that you have to deal with. Can you talk to us a little bit about the challenges and rewards associated with developing technology on the ocean?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the ocean is an incredibly unforgiving place. I mean, weather can change in a heartbeat. You've got to deal with salt water. I mean, our boats are out there, potentially for months at a time. So you need to be able to build something that's going to survive those large sea states. You need to be able to have, constant communication with it. So there's definitely a unique set of challenges, just like you guys were lucky we're on the coast, so we have a lot of great ocean around us, and so a lot of good testing facilities. So, we're constantly putting our boats out there in real world environment to test their performance. And for us, that's one of the key things, is just testing.
So the concept of being a CEO of a company sounds really glamorous to a lot of people. Can you just tell us what it's really like being the CEO in the early days of a startup?
Yeah, it's not really that glamorous at all. Let me tell you that right now. So, I mean, it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of, grant writing, organizing things. I do everything from like running our payroll to, doing our website, to managing meetings, to organizing projects, to trying to raise venture capital, to going to conferences, to cleaning the office. You basically do everything. There's a lot of rejection, right? Try raising money. It's so hard. People tell you that your company is going to fail, that you're going to bankrupt yourself. You face rejection continuously. But you face successes as well. So I think, the most important thing about being a CEO, I can't remember where I read this, but I read that there's no school to go to be a CEO, and that if CEOs were ranked, we'd actually all do really poorly. So I think the most important thing to know is that you're constantly learning, constantly surrounding yourself by people who know more than you. And so for me, that's really been a lot of amazing advisors who are way smarter than me, who have done this before, who I can rely on and ask questions, and then just being open to learning. And same thing with my team. Like, I constantly ask them, what can we do better? And, I get great advice, like from my co-op students, right? And so it's about listening to people and, being open to all of those suggestions and recognizing what you should listen to and what you shouldn't.
So you alluded to the imperative for advisors and mentors. Can you talk to us a little bit about your advisors and mentors, who you have brought on in that inner circle to help you develop your company, but also to give you that strength and feedback in order to grow and develop a company?
Yeah, I think, the role advisors play will change throughout your company depending what is important to you at that stage. So I've found amazing advisors from a number of different areas, but I would say the accelerators that I've been involved with have been really important for that. And CDL is a great example of that. So I'm in the ocean stream right now in CDL, so that's based in Atlantic Canada. So I've had a few opportunities to see how amazing your ecosystem is there. But I've had great advisors from CDL who have deep knowledge in the ocean industry, and that is really valuable because building an ocean tech company is different than building other companies. So knowing, how somebody has built a previous ocean tech company is really valuable. And then I've had great advisors from more on the business side as well. So in terms of, raising venture capital, how to make a pitch deck, somebody who's been a venture capitalist, that sort of thing. So I think it's important to recognize, where you need support, the things that you don't understand, and find advisors to help fill those gaps.
And so if you were going to give a piece of advice to somebody starting out, what would you say, other than accelerators and getting involved in those, are there other places that you would say go and look for mentors and advisors as well?
Go to the industry that you want to sell to. Who is using this product? If you're doing something completely innovative that's going to change how it's done, how is it being done now? Really understand your customer. I don't think you can say enough about that. Understand their challenges, their struggles, who they are, and by doing that, you'll see advisors that could potentially guide you. Having an industry advisor who's an expert in the area that you want to go to could be one of your most valuable advisors.
So you mentioned CDL, and I'm interested to hear, how did you get involved in CDL, and how did you make the decision to put your company into CDL?
So I'd heard a fair bit about CDL from other people who had gone through it and how it had been very helpful in helping them, decide on their business direction, focus, the support of the mentors, potentially helping with raising a round. So I decided to apply to CDL Oceans because for me, the most important thing was having that experience, people who are in the ocean industry. And I also really wanted to understand the East Coast ocean industry as well, because you do have a very strong maritime industry, and it's quite diverse, and there's a lot of support for it. So it was a great excuse for me to spend more time on the East Coast. So I applied, and I was accepted, and so that started in September, and it's I guess about a 10-month process, and I've been through four sessions now, three or four sessions. So three, yes. So the first two were in Halifax, and then the third one was supposed to be in St. John's, Newfoundland. But of course, it was canceled. So that was just last week. So we had the first ever virtual CDL session. And I have made it through that one as well. So I'm still in CDL. I'm still working with some great advisors. And then the next session will be in, it's supposed to be in Halifax, but it will be virtual as well.
Oh, that's so great to hear. Now, you've talked a little bit about venture capital and raising venture capital. Can you talk to us a little bit about the decision to take on venture capital and how you go about getting venture capital?
So, I think the saying is, if you don't need venture capital, don't take it. But we're building autonomous boats, and there's a lot of cost involved in building autonomous boats, and we can't foot the bill for that. So we have no choice. We needed external investment. But beyond just the financial value of external investment, I think it's really important to look at what else comes with that. So our investors are mostly angel investors. We have one seed fund, but many of them offer really incredible skill sets. These are ex-CEOs. These are people who have built companies, and they are so vested in you. They believe in you. They've put their money behind that, and they want to help your company succeed. So being able to leverage their skills and their network is really important for growing your company and also for when you're going to be raising the next round.
So as you make the decision to take venture capital, how do you go about that negotiation? Because this is something you've built, you own the shares in this company. So how do you take on that negotiation and make a determination of how much of your company you're going to give up in order to take these funds?
Yeah, I think, it kind of depends where you are. We're a Canadian company. Canadian companies generally aren't valued as high as, US companies might be. If you were in Silicon Valley, it's probably a different valuation. So you have to be realistic to the environment that you're in. And at the same time, recognizing that, people are taking a big risk by investing in your company at this very early stage. Angel investors take more risk than anyone else, and you want them to be rewarded. You want them to be a partner in your company. So really being fair about it. And it's a discussion. And so there's a number of different ways to take investment. You could take a priced round where you say what the value of the company is. You could do a convertible note. It could be debt where you're not deciding on the price of the company yet, or you could do a convertible note that's equity, a safe. So you'll provide the valuation will come at a later round, and you just give them a discount on that. So there's a number of different ways to do that. And accelerators are great support in helping you sort of navigate that and figure out what's the best solution for your company.
Thanks for that, Julie. Can you talk to us a little bit about your board of directors and how you, in the early stages, rounded that out, and what that looks like today, and has it evolved since when you started out?
So we have a board of advisors. So those are people with, business expertise, scientific expertise, industry expertise. We don't, the board of directors is me. So there's no external people on the board of directors yet. And we will grow that when we take on a larger financing round. But for the early stages of a company, I think it's really good to keep it simple. So we didn't want to introduce any added complexity at this stage.
So Julie, you've had really great success. You've been successful in the Women in Tech, getting about $800,000. You've won several challenges. Where do you see the company in 2 to 5 years? Where do you want to be as a company at that point?
I would like to see us have, a large presence on the ocean, both in terms of vessel sales as well as data as a service. So we have a hybrid business model where we both sell our boats and we go out there and collect the data that customers need. So I think there's a lot of value in providing that type of flexibility. We also see a real importance in the ocean data that's being collected and finding ways in which we can, use all the incredible ocean data we collect to better understand our ocean. So in terms of using AI, machine learning, different types of analytics to provide additional value. But definitely moving out into the future, I would like to see a more digital ocean where we really embrace autonomous technologies from companies like ours, as well as other surface boats, submersible boats, just a range of technologies, because I think we need to work together as a world to better understand our oceans and pull all of these technologies together. And I think autonomy has the profound ability to really overcome a lot of the challenges in getting ocean data, both in terms of, the expense, the difficulty of going out there on the ocean.
It's so interesting. So, in terms of partnerships that you've formed along the way, it's really important a lot of the times for a startup to have early partnerships that make big differences for them. Can you talk about some of those strategic partnerships that you've formed in these early years and the value those have had for you?
Yeah, sure. So we just did a pilot that was doing a multi-beam survey using our autonomous boat, and that was for the Canadian Coast Guard. So we worked with them and their staff through Public Works that's involved in seafloor mapping to really understand, what it is that's important for them in order to be able to have the data they need for the applications they need. And that was really crucial. I mean, for us, I think it's actually the first time that a fully solar powered boat has been used for a multi-beam survey. So there were a lot of technical challenges, and then multi-beam surveying, I mean, it's a science unto itself. So having that inside knowledge was really crucial. Another partnership we have is with Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So here on Vancouver Island at IOS, Institute of Ocean Sciences. So we're working with them to integrate other oceanographic sensors on our vessel and to really understand, what data and how researchers want to view that data and make sure it's meeting the parameters that it needs to. So it's really important to have that external validation and collaboration. Also, research institutions are great. We're currently in discussions with both the University of Victoria and Dalhousie about potential research collaborations because universities have, amazing facilities, incredibly talented, smart people who have expertise in these areas that you really can't tap into otherwise. So I think those are, some great partnerships to take advantage of. And there's so many programs to facilitate that kind of a partnership as well in terms of financial support.
So good. I want to get to some questions from people who are listening in. So one quick question while we're just putting those up is, if there was one piece of advice you would have for somebody starting out right now, what would it be?
I think it's, don't be afraid to go for it. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you'll fail. But if you don't try, you never have the chance of succeeding. And there really are a lot of resources to help you. I mean, this is a route that has been traveled before. And so just go out there, take a step forward, and keep moving towards your goal. And, many times you will find a way to succeed. And if not, you will learn some incredible things along the way.
So interesting. One of the questions that's come up, and I think you've answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Where are you in your funding stage? Are you seed stage, Series A? I think I know the answer, but I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I think those are kind of like shifting terms. So we raised just over $500,000, 537,000. We're calling it a pre-seed round. So it was not a price round. We did it on a safe, and we'll look to raise another seed round either later this year or early next year.
Great. Can you talk to me a little bit about co-founder? Now, you're in a unique circumstance with a co-founder who is also a husband, but the importance of co-founder and those different skill sets in the early days.
Yeah, I mean, who you start the company with is very important. It's great if you have different skill sets and well-defined roles. So as you said, in our case, I founded the company with my husband, Colin, who is our CTO. So he's very focused on the technical side, designing the boat, ensuring that it's seaworthy, whereas I'm much more focused on the business side, raising the money, creating partnerships. When people look at your company, they will value you and evaluate you by your team. So you really need to speak to why you are the team to do this, what kind of unique skill sets you have, how your roles are differentiated, how you complement each other, and where you're going to get the skill sets that you're missing, either through advisors or through hiring people.
So one of the questions that we have for you, Julie, is do your vessels collect nearshore data as well as open ocean data, or is it mostly just the nearshore?
It's both, yeah. And I think that's one of the advantages with a solar-powered boat in terms of having that precise control. It's like driving a car, so you can go near shore. You don't have to worry about losing control if the wind or the waves stop. But the boat is self-righting, so the roll bar that you saw on the back end of the boat, it acts as buoyancy device that, coupled with the shape of the vessel, allows it to passively self-right. So it could potentially be thrown out there in a hurricane and just continuously self-right. And that is in many ways the beauty of a solar-powered boat like that. Structurally, it's much more simplistic. There's not as much for the waves to sort of grab onto and break. And I mean, that's something that we saw in our rowboat. Like, our rowboat was like super simple design, and it went through 2 hurricanes actually. And so it makes you recognize just how well a good design boat can fare in those big sea states. Whereas, if we had been in a sailboat, I'm sure we would have demasted and a capsize. It's just some of the inherent challenges in having, a large sail and a heavy keel.
Ray Ritzy has asked, if you had a chance to do something differently, what would it be?
In terms of building the company, I think, I'm pretty happy with the way things have gone. I think maybe bringing on like an industry collaborator or partner at an earlier stage would be really valuable. So you have that sort of direct line to market, and it can provide more clarity for exactly what you need to achieve.
And we have a very technical question for you here. What sensors are on board your vessels?
So right now, the vessel we have, so this is our first production vessel that we just built we did our prototype testing before, but on this vessel, it was for the multi-beam survey. So we had an Airmar weather station for environmental data collection, and then we had a Norbit multi-beam unit, as well as the IMU and the inertial navigational unit, and then GNS antennas, RTK receivers, so everything you need for multi-beam surveying. We also have water temperature measurements, and now we are developing, putting additional sensors on for our DFO project, and that'll be an ADCP, so acoustic Doppler current profiler, to measure the currents in the vertical water column, water temperature once again, salinity, and most likely turbidity and chlorophyll as well, and a wave sensor.
I'm just getting one more question in for you. While I'm waiting for that one, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit from the respect of the project. What would you say to somebody who's thinking that they might want to take their idea from idea to company right now, if they were just starting out? Why should they do this?
Well, I think there's really no better time to start an ocean tech business in many ways. I think globally there's been increased attention on our oceans, on the importance of protecting our oceans. Much of that has been driven by the impact of plastic pollution. People see it's very visible. We're all aware of the challenges that it causes, and so this has drawn interest to the ocean. So you're seeing more ocean investors, some funds specifically targeted towards ocean tech. It's the decade, UN decade for oceans starting up. We're seeing more ocean accelerators. CDL is going to run its full first full ocean cohort. There's, Catapult in Norway. There's Sustainable Ocean Alliance. There's definitely interest in the oceans. And even in today's environment, obviously here we are virtually, it's unprecedented times, things are different. There's no denying that. But startups actually do really well in recessionary times. So that's what happened in 2008. So now is not a bad time for a startup. So those are a few reasons.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to read this question out. I'm not sure I understand it, but hopefully you do. How did you do your trades to determine the swap of the vehicle? So power versus sensor versus data storage versus comms.
Yeah. So what we found when we did our multi-beam survey is that we needed more power. So basically the Norbit multi-beam, it's a big unit you put on the bottom of the hull. It really increases the drag. It's got huge power consumption compared to, some of the other sensors like temperature, salinity, even in ADCP. So we had to create a modular battery system as well as pod motor system. So we basically expanded our battery pack from like 3 kilowatt hours to over 10. And then we created a modular battery system, or modular pod motor system. We have a pod motor for offshore applications that's super energy efficient, it's magnetically coupled, and moves on average about 2 knots. But we needed something with more thrust to go at higher speeds and also overcome the drag of the multi-beam. So we created a system where we took that motor out and put in another motor. So we had to adapt our vessel, but in many ways that was really advantageous because it expanded the use of our vessel. So now it can do shorter missions that have those high intensity sensors, but it can also do longer missions offshore for months at a time where it's dependent entirely on the energy it harvests from the sun.
So this is a quick question. Is your vessel manufactured in Vancouver, on Vancouver Island?
Yeah, it is. So we have the hull and the deck manufactured at a facility just outside of Victoria. And then we bring that to our facility and then we fit it out with all of the electronics.
Okay. And another question, are you involved in Seabed 2030, the push to map the sea floor of the whole ocean?
Not really. So it's definitely something that we're interested in, have spoken to some people involved in that. We've also spoken to CHS, Canadian Hydrographic Society, and there's kind of like a crowdsourcing campaign. So we will put one of those devices on our vessel. So whenever our vessel is out there, we can collect data to contribute to that project.
Okay. One question is, given that we live in such a windy area here in certainly Atlantic Canada and presumably out in British Columbia as well, did you consider wind, or does that make the marine vehicle too vulnerable?
Yeah, we absolutely did. And the first boat we developed was actually a sailboat. So if you go to our website, openoceanrobotics.com, it won't have the image of the solar powered boat. It'll have an image of our sailboat. It's a dual rigid wing sailboat. And we absolutely agree. Wind is a great way to propel a vessel. We just felt that there were some unique advantages of solar that would position us better in the marketplace. And I think, now is a great time to create a solar powered vessel. in terms of the way technology has advanced. We've seen great leaps in photovoltaic cells, in energy efficiency, also in lithium-ion batteries and their storage capabilities. So building a solar boat allowed us to take advantage of these innovations that were developed by other people. And that's another reason why it's a great time for an autonomous boat company right now, is because technology is advancing so rapidly. And like when you look at autonomous cars or aerial drones, a lot of the collision avoidance, the LiDAR systems, those are applicable to us as well. When you think about low Earth orbit satellites, when we have that kind of a network in place, it will transform communication from the open ocean. Just imagine that you can have a vessel, an autonomous boat that's in the middle of nowhere, and you can stream high bandwidth video or audio information. It's really exciting.
Yeah, sure is. So, final question for you. If you were to start this business now, during the situation we're in with certain industries have been shut down, how would you approach it today versus what you did 2 and 3 years ago?
Well, I think, you're going to start slow. You're going to keep your burn rate down. I mean, obviously, it's super challenging times. Our whole team is working at home. We've had to put in place communication methods, and not everybody can do their job as well as if you were in a facility. But if you're starting a company, most likely it's going to be you and maybe somebody else. It's going to be a small team. Hopefully you'll be able to continue to do the work that you need to do, and you'll be able to start to build the technology to show value and just to keep your burn rate down. I think, in terms of investment, it's actually a rosier picture for seed companies in a recession than early or later stage companies. So in the 2008 recession, what they found is that the amount of money that went into pre-seed and seed companies did not decrease. The valuation went down by about 30%, but they just invested in more companies. Whereas for early and later stage companies, the amount of money invested went down, as did the valuation. So I think there definitely are opportunities. People will just be pickier in what they invest in.
Yeah, I totally agree, Julie. And that's what I'm so excited about with this project, is that now is such an interesting time to get in, and there are opportunities. And with this project, there is funding available to people. There are dollars out there for people who are starting up companies. So it's a really, really exciting time. I'm just going to switch over to 2 questions about the project specifically. One is, are startup applications limited to Canadian companies only? No, the answer to that is no. We will accept applications from any companies. And where can we reach you? You can reach us on the Ocean Supercluster webpage. That's where you can find us. That will be launched in the next day or 2, I think, probably maybe even early next week. You can also find us on Facebook, and you can reach out to me at dgrant@oceanstartupproject.ca. So Natasha, can you just go to we'll just do a little sign off here. So really, Julie, I just want to say a very big thank you to you. It's such a great opportunity to have you here, and you are so impressive. Not only are you impressive on your resume, you are one of the nicest, kindest, most humble people I have ever come across, especially given all that you have done and accomplished in your life. It has just been a true pleasure for me to get to know you over these last few weeks, and to be able to spend this time and have you come on and answer questions for all those people out there who are excited about this project and wanting to know more about starting a company. I also want to just thank everyone once again for joining us today. And I also want to thank Atlantic Live Street for their in-kind support and helping to ensure today's webinar ran smoothly. As well, I have to say a thank you to Natasha Legay and Rebecca Cole, who work on the project and have made all of this possible with tireless work over the last 2 weeks. We have made a major pivot on this project to this webinar series. So as we sign off, please sign up for the next webinar on April 9th, which will be held at the same time as today's webinar. Hearing Maren Bauer and Jim Hanlon discuss growing the ocean economy, a Canadian and international perspective, will really be worth every second of your time. If you can't make the next webinar but want to stay connected, please join the Facebook group. As well, follow us on social media and stay up to date on the latest developments of the Ocean Startup Project. This is a really unique time in all of our lives, and I am really grateful we could all come together today and spend this time sort of together. So stay safe, socially distanced, and well. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you again, Julie Angus. So appreciative.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you to everyone for listening. It's a real pleasure. And if anybody does have any specific questions for me, they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Really appreciate the time.